Dan, RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great time, as always. That was Counting Stars by One Republic, great song, and we're, of course, calling this Talking to Others Psychically. I got a neat little email from someone not long ago, and it even got brought up in a couple of other conversations, so this seemed to be a very, very good topic to try to get into. So one of the kind of things I wanted to get into slightly was, over the years, I've been told a lot of different techniques for a lot of different things. There's always all these different techniques for meditating, and there's all these different techniques for reaching out to others' higher selves. There's different techniques for this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of people swear on these techniques. They think that they're the way to do it. And I, by no means, dissuade or disagree with people. I think you'll find that there's a lot of ways to do these things. And it's funny is so many people get really attached to certain specific ways. And if it works, cool, keep doing it. If it doesn't, then, try something else. That's fine too. But understand that just because all these different other approaches are being thrown around out there doesn't necessarily mean that they're all right, nor does it mean that they're all wrong. There's what I've found is countless ways you can do this, but ultimately it comes down to some real basic points. And that's kind of what I'm going to do this show on is the basic points. There's not a lot of specific techniques that need to be shared. Whatever you're comfortable with, however you're comfortable doing it, is really the best approach. So, that all being said, this really comes down to intention. Intention is the key to most of this manifesting stuff, most of this communicating stuff, most of anything. If you're wanting to seek knowledge and don't necessarily have the answer and you don't know where to go, this is the same kind of approach you can use to get those answers too. Intention tells the universe what you would like to have back. It's truly that simple. Universe is there to work for you, and all you need to do is ask, and it shall be. So when it comes to trying to communicate with someone's higher self, which I think a lot of times we're looking for specific people, maybe trying to get someone to reach out to us, maybe get confirmation from them that maybe they care about you. I was talking about on one of my specific Someone Woes show that I did recently. There are times when I have reached out to my specific someone or whatever at this point, but I've reached out and gotten responses from her within a day, sometimes two, but generally even within the same day, I will usually get that. So like maybe I'm in the shower doing my meditation, and that's when I'm reaching out and talking to her. And usually within that day, I will get like a text message or something. And there was a very, very profound one that happened not long ago. But again, I think a lot of it is because I had to make sure that instead of asking if she cares, I have to be more concerned about, is this actually right for us? And that was kind of what led to that whole show and that topic and all that stuff. Now, again, techniques. How do I do this? It's very simple. I feel like if I would have just gone straight to that, this would be a 3-minute long video, and it's going to be probably 7. What I literally do is I get in, I talk to their higher self. I literally get into a place where I imagine them, I imagine seeing them, I imagine being connected to them, because whenever you think of someone, it's that thought transmission thing with Goddard. It's exactly what we're doing. It's exactly the mechanism behind it. Your thoughts transmit. Whenever you think of anybody at all, anybody, that somebody is possibly receiving you. I will say they're definitely receiving you, but sometimes people aren't conscious of what's happening. So a really fun test of this, and I want to throw this out there first, to tell how sensitive someone is, and I've done this numerous times. Now, if you're busy, it's one thing, but this works really, really well because most of the time people aren't busy when I'm doing it. If someone's like, say, standing in line, a really fun thing to do to see how sensitive they are spiritually is to stare at them. Stare at their head. Stare at the back of their head. Just look at them and see how long it takes for them to look at you. Very sensitive people will do it almost immediately. You will look at them and they will almost immediately feel that presence and turn and stare at you. People that are a little less sensitive, it will take them longer, but eventually at some point it nags at them and they feel like someone's looking, so they'll look. It's just a natural thing. They'll what is that? It's actually very, very cool because it proves a lot of things in my mind. That energy has power. Whenever you are focusing on something, there's a power that's created between you and it. So when you think of someone, anyone, that energy goes straight to that person. If they're sensitive enough, they'll immediately, you'll pop into their head. They won't necessarily connect the dots and say, oh, they must be thinking of me. No, you'll just pop into your head. And like, how many times a day has someone popped into your head or some random thing popped into your head? You don't think about it. You don't go, I wonder why. Most of the time, you have a thought, someone pops into your head, and you're thinking about them. Cool, groovy, great. Oh, yeah, I forgot about so-and-so. Anyway, back to what I was doing. What I realize is when people pop into my head out of the blue, where I'm not thinking about it, it's not really in line with where I was just at mentally, meaning maybe I'm making a sandwich and then all of a sudden so-and-so pops into my head, but the sandwich does not remind me of so-and-so. There's zero connection there directly with what I'm doing and what just popped into my head. In those cases, I realize it's because this person's probably thinking of me. So that does happen in a lot of cases where I'll pick up on it. But that is the mechanism. The mechanism is the thought of the individual. And when you think of them, you create a bridge. You instantly create a connection between you and them. Then you send the message. Now, I typically phrase my messages to their higher self. It's easier. It's easier for my mind, and I also know that their higher self's definitely receiving the message, and their higher self will work with them to try to help fulfill the desire that I'm asking for. Now, again, not always do you get what you want. Sometimes you're going to ask people to do things, and they're not going to do it. I want everybody to understand out there, that's good. You're not. I know there's a lot of manifesting techniques out there that suggest that you should be able to just implant these sorts of things in other people, but ultimately that's kind of controlling people, and you can't do that. You can't. I mean, if you try to, it's going to reflect back on you typically, and it's not going to work to your advantage. So again, people have free wills. People are allowed to not be interested in talking to you or being with you or any of that stuff. So again, if you're trying to get somebody involved in your life that doesn't want to be involved in your life, they're not gonna, period. It doesn't matter what you do. There's nothing you can do to force that person to change their mind. You can't. Sometimes people change their minds for a reason, and that's why I've talked about stepping back and reevaluating the situation. And when you do that, it gives you a chance to kind of go, why am I doing this? Why am I chasing after someone that doesn't want to be chased by me? Or why am I trying so hard? Or, whatever the case is, sometimes just backing away a little bit actually will bring about results that are amazing. Like I've backed away from things before and then almost immediately had it manifest just by getting out of my own way, like, taking the handbrake off, as we've heard said before. So holding these people in your mind and then directly communicating to their higher self is how you do that. So when you hold them in your head, you're holding that vision, you're communicating to their higher self, and then you ask them the question, and you ask them to confirm that to you somehow. I wouldn't get overly specific about how they have to confirm it. Ask for it and let it happen. Let it come however it does. And I will say it's not necessarily always going to come directly from them. Could be you might walk into a grocery store and you hear a song that used to be yours and theirs. That song brings back a certain set of memories, right? Certain feelings. Maybe it was the first dance you ever had with this individual and you guys broke up or whatever and you're wanting to rekindle, right? So that song is the first dance you ever had and you remembered how much emotion and how much awesomeness and how that signified such a wonderful beginning for you guys. And so that actually ends up becoming your answer. So again, don't always be so stuck on the result or the outcome. Be open to letting the universe show you. Yes, there's been lots of times where the actual specific somebody would turn around and send me a text message, maybe call me on the phone. That's actually happened, like whatever. Like that does happen. And I've had lots of times where the song on the car, maybe the thing on the license plate, maybe a name pops up on the news in the morning when I'm getting ready that I hear that is that person's name, right? Like there's certain things that sometimes will act as the marker that I'm asking for. If I wasn't overly specific about what it is I'm asking from them, then sometimes the universe just gives a non-specific answer back. But if you need something very specific, then yeah, ask. I just say, hey, I'd really love it if you just maybe shoot me a text message and just kind of confirm that we can maybe, that the lines of communication are still open. I would love to know that that's still the case. So-and-so's higher self, if there's any, if that's in the cards, if that's something that will work for both of us, then please reach out to me and give me a text message or something, just so I know that we can still talk, or whatever the case is, however that plays out. That would be one example where you could talk to them. Or maybe, hey, I'd love to, I've done this before, I haven't seen you in a long time, and maybe you guys go to the same coffee shop, but you just seldom at the same time of day. So then maybe just go, hey, I'd love to see you again. Let's try to bump into each other at the coffee shop. Let's try to see if we can time it out where we're both there at the same time. When you put that out to that person's higher self, that actually, your higher self and their higher self are working together, and the day that you guys end up bumping into each other, you probably noticed that you got out of the house 20 minutes later because stuff was happening, right? Like certain things were happening and you couldn't get done, and then you dropped something and you had to clean it up. I got to get going. I'm running out of time. Okay, cool. Finally, you go. Well, because of all that delay, and then they had something come up, so they needed to get out of the house earlier maybe than normal, and then boom, suddenly your guys' schedules coincide. So again, it's amazing how these synchronicities play out, and I think it's a very good idea to kind of play around with this, because it's actually very cool, and it's one of the many ways that it helped me prove manifestations and whatnot in the way energy works, just by asking certain questions, like I said, by staring at someone and seeing how long it takes them to notice your stare. It is very interesting how energy dynamics work. And I'll certainly do a lot more shows on energy, because I think it's, one, within ourselves, the energy is key. But two, that energy is kind of how all this stuff seems to work, at least to my understanding. What we send out is what comes back. It's that energy. It's that frequency. So Law of Attraction constantly talks about how we attract the vibration that we currently are. Again, our energy. Vibrations are energy. That's the same thing. It's just the little lines that fluctuate, right? That's energy. That's what we are. It's what our souls are. Supposedly that's what we're made of. That's what manifests things. Things are energy that condense into solid form called matter, called atoms, and eventually it becomes real. So again, energy is in everything. Even solid, even like this table that's sitting here on my desk. It's solid, but it's only because the things are vibrating very slowly, but they're still moving. There's still resonance. There's still frequency. It's a moving table. Not to mention the funny part is with atoms, like 99% of an atom is empty space. So that's another thing. We can get into a whole separate topic there, but really everything's made of nothing. 99% of everything is empty space. So anywho, that is how I communicate with others. It's worked beautifully. Again, holding the vision, holding them in your mind instantly creates a bridge, instantly creates a thought bridge between you and them, the thought transmission, right? Instantly does. Then the messages that you pass to them are received. Now, sometimes they will consciously know you're doing this if they're very sensitive, again, going back to how quickly they turn and look at you. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't know it. Sometimes you're just talking to their higher self, but later in the day, something will hit them out of the blue, and they'll be like, oh my God, I need to text so-and-so. I haven't talked to them in forever. And that's how it plays out. That's how they do it. They don't know they're doing it. They're doing it because it's a good idea. It's the same way when you're trying to manifest a specific someone and you're trying to manifest from that location. These thoughts still just pop into their heads as like, that'd be an interesting idea. If they're not interested in you, that thought pops into their head and they're like, I have no desire to talk to that person ever again. So they're not going to. Again, it can go any way they want, but that is ultimately how it happens. You're transmitting a thought. That thought hits them. It's inside their consciousness now. What they choose to do with it is up to them. It's not your choice. It's their choice. So that's how it works. It's really that simple, and it's a lot of fun. You can do this with anybody. I've done it with teachers. I've done it with parents. I've done it with friends. I've done it with people I don't know. I've gotten people to ask me questions. I mean, I've literally experimented with this just to play around with it. And I've literally gotten people to ask me questions that had, like, just out of the blue. I just I could get that guy to walk up to me and ask me something. Just something. I don't even care. I just want him to ask me a question. And he did. And it was like, it's amazing how these things play out. It'll probably be the last little point I'll make on this, but it is, like I've said before, I work at a coffee shop on Sunday mornings. I do it. I've been in coffee for like 15 years. It got to a point where I didn't need to anymore, but I love it so much. It's just like, whatever. So I got all these wonderful people that I get to see on a regular basis. And it's amazing to me. Like, so in Star Wars, there's a scene. I don't know if any of you have seen it. If you have, cool. If you haven't, well, this is going to be weird. But there's a scene where Obi-Wan Kenobi's trying to make the stormtroopers go in. He does this thing with his hand. It's always these are not the droids you're looking for, right? And the guys are like, these aren't the droids we're looking for. And they're like, you may go about your business. And they're like, go ahead about your business. Move along now. Move along. And everything he says, they repeat back to him. What I've found is people, and I mean sheeple when I say people, but those people in groups are very, very easy or open to subjection. Is that even a word? They're open to having you put a thought into their minds, if you will. So by telling someone sometimes that this is a good thing, they're like, this is a good thing. That's it. That's all it takes. So again, putting it out there, putting it in the context of what you'd like to have back or reciprocated, and believe it or not, this stuff will happen for you often. It's a trip, and I highly recommend. I mean, this, for something that I don't talk about a lot, this is actually probably one of the cooler parts of the whole spiritual movement in my life, and one of the parts that really proved a lot of things to me. And I recommend anyone and everyone try this, because it will start to demonstrate to you the mechanics. It will start to demonstrate and prove to you how a lot of these things work. And it is impressive, to say the very least. We have a very, very energy-centric world. We are all completely connected to each other. And truly, there really is no secrets. Most of us are not aware of what others are thinking, but thoughts are transmitted. Everything you hold in your thoughts, in your mind, in your being, is transmitted. It is energy that is stamped on you. It's how psychics read people. They're picking up on their energy at that moment. If you're a really, really gifted psychic, you're maybe able to see, from their Akashic records or from past lives. You can see all these different crazy things. But for most psychics that are intuitive, they're feeling where you are right now. It's kind of one reason why it's oftentimes, if you're trying to manifest or trying to do something and you go to a psychic, they can deflate the heck out of you or kick you sideways, as I've called it, because ultimately they're reading where you are right now. And if you're questioning something and going to a psychic for it, well, you're already right now at a place where you don't believe it's happening. You're trying to figure out how you can make it happen, right? So again, all of these things are the energetics, the way they are stamped on our being is amazing. So again, reach out, talk to someone energetically. All you do, hold them, create that thought bridge, hold their thought, like imagine their face, imagine them, seeing them, ask your question, ask for response back, and you will be surprised at what accomplishes through all that. So, again, Dan RadioStyle, please feel free to comment, or on the video, of course, is always a good time, or email me at danradiostyle@gmail.com. Always interested in hearing things along those lines. And we're going to be going out with a song by Real Life called Send Me an Angel. Here it is on Dan RadioStyle.